Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk About It. This is Susan Johnson, and I'm here with my co-host, Dennis O'Brien. And have we got a wonderful couple of guests for you this evening. We are going to be talking about Labor Day and healthcare. And I can't think of a better combination to think about as we move into our Labor Day weekend celebration. How our healthcare professionals take care of us and how they really are doing a great job to take care of people who have medical needs. And yet we're still in a situation where they really should be organized into labor organizations to make sure that they can actually have the pay and the support that they need. Because, as you know, our healthcare systems have been changing, and it's going to mean more and more and more are people who provide those services that are in contact with us on a regular basis actually have the kind of support that they need to take care of themselves as well. Isn't that right, Dennis?
Yes, it is, and I'm very happy we're doing this show because Labor Day means a lot to me. Labor Day started in New York City in 1882. It was not a national holiday then, but in 1894, President Grover Cleveland signed it into law that Labor Day has been a holiday ever since 1894. And Labor Day means a lot to me. I grew up in a union family. My parents were union workers in the factories in New Britain. I remember being on the picket lines when I was young, and I enjoyed it because all the big people patted me on the head and they treated me like I was one of them. And I felt like a big guy, even though I was 8 or 9 years old. But anyway, I've been in unions myself. I worked in the Stop and Shop. I was in the Retail Clerks Union. I was a postal worker. I was in the Post Office Union. And then later on, after getting out of the Army, I became a lawyer. And I haven't been in a union since, but I sure am. As I always say, I may be wearing a white shirt today, but my collar is blue permanently.
All right.
So I'm happy, and Judy, I'm really happy to have you on the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, we're very, very pleased that you're here. We want to have Judy Kyle tell us a little bit about the great work she does to help the people who have medical needs.
Well, you know what? Like we both, I also grew up with parents who worked at Electric Boat for my entire life. So I always heard about the labor unions. And again, just like you, I was always welcome in the areas where they were having their meetings on their strike lines. So I grew up with a union family and understanding exactly how important it was that labor unions existed in helping to ensure worker rights. So I was very happy when I became a nurse 28 years ago to start working at a facility where our local 1199 New England Healthcare was a labor union in the building.
Well, we have a lot of friends out here this way. Of course, you're in Eastern Connecticut. We're a little farther east than you, but 1199 has always been very strong in Eastern Connecticut. And I've always had a lot of friends who are members of 1199. Not only have I worked with them in labor movements and whatnot, but also in politics because I have the same political, general political feelings that they do.
Mm-hmm. I think that having people organized into unions also gives people that sense of community, as Dennis was saying, and as you were saying, that you're there with your family, you're meeting with other union members, and that sense of community is something that I think that we're not quite where we used to be. And I think one way to bring that sense of community back is by having people organize into labor unions and into areas in the regions in which they're working and the areas of work that they're working in.
Yeah. Yes, Judy, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to say one more thing about that. I've always felt, I was born during World War II, and I always felt that labor unions and public education are what made America great. I really feel that, and I think one of the problems we have today is the labor movement is not as strong as it was, back in the last century when I was growing up, and I wish it were stronger today. But I'm really glad to know that you're covered by a labor union and a really good one, and and doing really important work for the people of our state. And I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit more about the facility you're working at and what your job is.
I have been working as an LPN at Complete Care of Harrington Court in Colchester, Connecticut for the past 25 years. I came to Complete Care when one of my other nursing facilities where I worked was being shut down. So I searched for another building that had a similar contract and was also in the 1199 labor union in order to just carry over my pension and my benefits and all the things that pretty much matched where I was leaving. And Complete Care at Harrington Court had a contract which really reflected and matched what I was leaving. So I was really happy to go there and be a part of that building for as long as I have.
Well, that's wonderful, and that is something that is so necessary. I think that the type of it's a retirement home. Is that the certification we're speaking of?
It's a skilled nursing facility where, yes, we have short-term stay Medicaid care patients, and we also house long-term care, private pay and Medicaid patients.
And Medicare as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is something that we're all going to be worried about at this point in time because there's been a proposal to, take away a lot of the money for people on Medicaid and Medicare, and having the changes for the state and having these costs not reimbursed to the same extent will have a very bad impact on facilities that are skilled nursing facilities that actually provide these kinds of services to people who really have to have a spot where they can get around-the-clock care.
Right. We just, the local 1199 just worked very hard lobbying the state over the past, several months, trying to secure proper funding for Medicaid reimbursement to the nursing homes. And we were able to finally push the state to fund the homes in a better manner in which they originally wanted to, a much greater amount.
Yes, I think that is excellent. I know I sit on the Human Services Committee, and we've been working very hard for the last 4 or 5 years to try and make sure we increase the co-payments that we provide to the providers of care. And so we finally have put that into law for the providers so that they will have an increase. And with an increase for the providers, there's also supposed to be an increase from the federal government to the state because it's a 50-50 reimbursement from the federal government to the state of Connecticut. So this is an excellent way to increase the access to resources, but there'll be other ways that, unfortunately, we'll be looking at how people qualify, say, for coverage, and those kinds of things may be an obstacle in terms of getting people into skilled nursing facilities the way they are now. In fact, just a little bit about me, one of the things that I used to do when I worked before at Legal Assistance to Medicare Patients and the Center for Medicare Advocacy is we used to have to go and fight the insurance industry that makes a determination as to whether or not somebody is eligible for Medicare coverage. And we used to have to fight them to make sure that the person who had Medicare actually received the coverage they were supposed to receive for the skilled services that are provided in a skilled nursing facility. So that is something that I have concerns about in terms of how will they take a look at the Medicare coverage, and then also when the person is no longer eligible for Medicare, how will the Medicaid program continue to provide the services that Medicaid is supposed to provide when they have that contract with the federal government?
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. I hear Susan talking about Medicaid and Medicare all the time, and Judy, and I know a little bit from my days in legal aid, and I also was, like I said, a probate judge. But my experience with nursing homes and nursing home patients and workers is pretty much limited to when I was a judge of probate, because we have. You are in the same probate district now that we are. And I used to spend. We have three skilled nursing facilities here in Willimantic, in Windham. I'm sorry, Willimantic. You may know is a city part of Windham, but we have three skilled nursing facilities here, and I would have to say that. On the average, I was probably in one of them at least once a week, one of the three, because I had to have hearings on, conservatorships and whatnot. So I'm sure that you have seen probate judges come into your facility. John McGrath John McGrath is the guy who succeeded me, and now he's retired, and he's been succeeded by a guy from Colchester. You probably had seen John McGrath around in your facility at times, but
I believe I have.
Yeah, but he's retired now. He aged out just as I did earlier, and now you have a new judge just starting. I think in the first week of June. So he's only been in for a short while, but he's very close to you because he lives in Colchester.
Okay, I was familiar with the probate judge from Colchester. Gosh, it must have been at least 20 years ago.
That's right. That's right, because there wasn't the court. There were a lot more courts back in those days, but there was a merger.
Right, they've consolidated a lot.
That's
now.
right. So Willimantic or Windham got merged with Colchester, and a few other smaller towns. Lebanon, but when I was a probate judge here for most of my time here, I only covered Windham and Scotland, and Judge McGrath covered Windham, Scotland, Colchester, and three other towns, including Lebanon.
Okay, so that is a really interesting point, Judge O'Brien, because I think that one of the things that our guest, Judy Kyle, has is one of the reasons that the judges go in there is to make a decision about whether or not the level of care that the person needs is there because the person is going to have a difficult time functioning on his or her own, even with family. So that you want to tell us a little bit about the kinds of patients that you deal with that really need your help.
I have these days we have a vast array of patients, from people with complex medical needs right to people who like you said, they're kind of like in limbo. They don't have anywhere to go. They don't have a home to live in. They have family who really cannot take care of them, and they really have nowhere to go. So they live at the skilled nursing facility. Their medical needs could be less complicated than many, but their social needs are just as much as anybody else. And that's where we struggle a lot in the nursing home. So while I'm busy taking care of the medical needs of some of my patients who have heavy medical needs, I'm not there socially for these other patients, and they're just kind of wandering aimlessly, in our facilities without a lot of interaction from other sources because there's no money to pay for it.
Yes, and so that is that. So there's straight Medicaid payment then if they're in that circumstance, and that is one of the things that we have in terms of when you look at the trajectory from when the Medicare program and Medicaid programs were created. They were created for people to go from a hospital to a nursing facility to a home care setting, and they have to be in a safe situation, which is why Judge O'Brien here and then Judge McGrath and now the current judges have to go and say, hey, this person really can't be discharged because they can't be discharged into a safe environment. And so that is one of the issues, and that's why it can make your job more difficult. Now, we did have back in the day more nursing home beds that were certified for less, not skilled care, but for care that was, not requiring skilled, but still required a place for somebody to be. And those kinds of changes have occurred back and forth over the last 30 years. So it's very hard to keep track of where we are at this point in time. Nevertheless, the problems that people are faced with and the facilities are faced with and the state's faced with have to do with the fact that there are people who just have to have a place to be because they can't function outside of a facility.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one of the things that we will be looking at some more. But I think that you raise an excellent point. What about the people that actually require, say, a physical therapist? And how do you monitor those people and in the time when they're not with the physical therapist?
Well, during the day, if I have a patient who happens to not necessarily be on physical therapy at the time, it is part of my job to assess their potential to actually receive physical therapy, like if they could have, if they may be able to improve upon their baseline of mobility or occupational type of needs. So on a daily basis, I have to look at, like my one of 34 patients and decide if perhaps they could use some physical therapy care. And we do have a therapy department in the building.
Yes, that's an excellent point, too. That's the other thing that you do. You make sure that you look at the overall situation of the person that day and then report it to the therapist, to the APRN on duty, or to the doctor.
Yes.
And that way you are, excuse me, you are providing observation and assessment.
Yeah, Judy. One of the questions I wanted to ask you about your facility that you work in. Do you have people coming in there, like temporarily for they've been injured or something, or they've had they have something that can cause them to be in a nursing home for a while, but then they probably will be going back to live at home.
We have had I have had some patients who have been with us. Sometimes they'll stay 2 and 3 years, and then one day I find out they're going, quote unquote, home to, let's say, a family members or wherever. But sometimes it takes somebody a couple of years to really get to the point where they can actually go to another home, to a home where they can actually live with a family member. Because it's a lot of like 2 steps forward, 1 step back with these patients. They're doing really well, but then they have setbacks. They were doing really well, but then COVID came and really, it ruined everything for everybody. They either had to stay put or they got sick, and now it's a whole new recovery process. So we do have people that come for very short periods. Those are our Medicare patients that usually will leave, but then sometimes Medicare patients can't leave, and they end up coming to our longer-term side of the facility where they become Medicaid patients.
Yeah, I understand that. I've experienced that with people, and I remember it was not long before I had to that I retired. I didn't have to retire. I could have stayed on another year and a half or so, but I was so busy with my other work, and I decided to retire a little bit early, and to give John McGrath a chance to replace me when I was so busy. But anyway, I can remember that they changed the law so that the judge was able to issue, if the judge felt that based on medical evidence that a person was able to go home or had a place to go with a relative, usually, the judge could actually order it to happen. Now that didn't happen at all when I was able to do that for like about a year and a half. I had cases, but I never had a case where someone who was pretty nursing home necessary was able to go home, and it was very sad for me because they would look me in the eye and say, Judge, I'd really rather not be here, and you look back at them and you say, I know, I understand, because all I can think about is myself. I mean, I was lucky that I never had a stroke or any kind of a debilitating problem that would lead me to have to be in a nursing home because I was older myself.
I have.
Go ahead.
I do. Oh, I'm sorry. I do have several patients who are really quite able to do a lot of things themselves, but for whatever reason, their home situation is not. They're not able to go because of safety concerns.
Yeah.
And it's very sad because I have one patient every single day. He comes up to me and he goes, I just don't understand why I can't leave here. And every day I have to try to explain it to him that it's just not safe for him to go.
Yeah, yeah, and that you raise an interesting point, both of you, about people with strokes, because they come back at different rates, and
Yes.
the coverage time, say for the Medicare program, is 100 days, but it can take 2 or 3 years before someone can actually come back and function pretty well. And as I studied that when I had several cases with people who had strokes, and there is a chance. It doesn't. It's not just 6 months. It's keeping working at it all the time so that people can finally function at the best of their ability after the stroke. So, no one should put a limitation on the time for somebody who's suffered with that.
No, and we have a lot of people literally that are sitting and waiting for a program called Money Follows the Person.
Yes.
Which I'm no expert at, but I can tell you because of the state funding, because of the budget cuts, because of difficulties with funding and money. Money Follows the Person doesn't have a big resource, base full of people, and sometimes these people are waiting for years to literally leave the facility on Money Follows the Person.
That's exactly right, and that's one of the programs that the state has instituted. But again, it's the safety of the patient and a place for the patient to go, and making sure that the patient has access to home care services that'll, take the place of being in the nursing home. So it's a big step to be able to do that, and the state has cut back on the access to nursing home beds, but has yet to be able to fulfill the need of Money Follows the Person as well. But it is there if the person has access to a house and if the home care agency services are available to that person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so.
Okay, Judy, we're getting down to a half point of our show, so we've got another guest from 1199 for the second half. Maybe you know the person, I don't know, Maya.
I know Maya's story. I do.
Yeah. So she's going to do the second half of the show, and I thank you so much for being with us and for talking about your job and your union. And I'm hoping that you will be able to take some time to celebrate Labor Day and to celebrate, your with your cohorts and colleagues in the nursing home and in the union on Labor Day, Monday, the 1st of September.
Yes.
Okay.
Listen, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you and all you do for the people.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Okay.
Have a great Labor Day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Susan Johnson, and we are here with our new special guest celebrating Labor Day, Maya Guyton, and she is a personal care attendant, taking care of her brother at home. And this is something that we need more of. We need more people who are going to be able to take care of their family members or take care of people they know. A lot of personal care attendants. I've had discussions with people here in this community where they went to school with this person, they knew this person, and then the person required a personal care attendant because of a deterioration due to multiple sclerosis, for example. And then what happens is they were thrilled that they were able to get somebody that they knew to help them with their day-to-day activities. And those are really important things for personal care attendants to do.
Absolutely.
Hey, Maya, so you are in the union.
I am.
Okay, cool. I thought I knew that, but I know that the situation with personal care attendants and and how they're paid has been an issue for quite a while, and how well they're paid, because the state always has limited funds for taking care of the needy. And Susan is more attuned to that kind of issue than I am. But I'm going to let her do most of the talking in this segment of the show. But I really appreciate what you're doing for your brother. It's too bad that I know when I was a probate judge, an awful lot of people would come to me in a nursing home and say they wish they could go home, and almost everybody that could articulate it, and a lot of them just have nowhere to go because they have nobody that could take care of them, and there's such a need for what you're doing, and in the community, because the population is getting older, for example. Anyway, Susan's going to ask a question now.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Right.
So just tell us a little bit about how you came to be a personal care attendant, and one of the things I'll share is that I was on the picket line a couple of years ago in the Hartford area because there is a building that was devoted to people who required personal care attendants, and everybody was organized in that particular building to take care of people who had those needs. And also they worked with home care, skilled nurses who would come in, and the personal care attendant would be the one who would see a condition that perhaps required physical therapy or an emergency room or required a nurse to come in and monitor the medications. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah, I take care of my brother, like I said. I got into it not too long ago, probably like 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, he's my brother, so he's always been a responsibility of mine. But, yeah, just about right after COVID, my other brother, Alex, he used to assume the care of Kenny, and he passed away in 2020.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. And then, we had a hard time finding good care. We had someone that we loved, Kenny loved, but, he went and had a family, and he had to raise a child, and like you said, it's hard to do that with the wages that we have. So he went and got a different job. So I took over the care of our brother. It wasn't in my plans, but I'm really happy to do it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Very, very good. And so the overall condition of your brother, sometimes you probably have to report to the doctor or to a home care agency. Do you coordinate with a home care agency?
I do not. My mom has the blessing to be able to hire and fire whoever. So she's like what you would call the consumer employer. So yes, really technically my brother's my boss, but my mom does oversee the hours and whatnot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yes, it certainly does. And so the overall condition of your brother, just not to get too personal, but maybe you could even think about other people you might know who are doing the same kind of work you're doing, the types of things that somebody who needs a personal care attendant would require.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for me, my brother, he has autism. He's a little higher functioning form of autism. He's pretty self-sufficient, but I mean, he still can't be on his own alone. So, it's as far as me and my mom, we really don't think of ourselves first. We haven't really been able to just, when you think about it, just leave the house, up and go. So we always have to look behind us when we do that. And that's one of my good friends who takes care of his mother, who she is no longer can walk. And it's a sensitive situation. You did say, more people want to be taken care of at home, and that exact reason, some people just aren't ready to not be able to take care of themselves, and she's lucky to have her son to do that. But again, he hasn't been able to think about himself since 2008, and those are kind of people that are doing this job.
Okay, well, so what is the relationship? When did you become a member of the union?
That happened pretty much soon after I started working with my brother. My organizer, she's awesome. She found me, and it was probably 6 months after it, and really explained to me. I had no idea there was a union for home care workers. I really knew very little bit about what my job was, and that there were so many people doing my job. And she introduced me into everything and told me that there was a way I could make my job better, and it was a no-brainer for me.
So you got into that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think Susan is ready to ask you another question. But
I'm sorry, I have a cold, so it's been...
No worries.
Anyway, so it's important that there are people out there who are actually helping coordinate and keeping people organized, because I think the personal care attendants sometimes are kind of under the radar in terms of how things are organized, but they're so important to making sure that we have people who can stay at home and have friends and family members, or even people who aren't friends or family members, help and take care of people who have needs that if they didn't have the personal care attendant, they'd have to be in a round-the-clock institution.
in a skilled nursing facility. Yeah. And being obviously being at home is almost anybody would choose to be at home. Now, I'm going to ask Susan a question. Susan, was there a time when personal care attendants were not unionized?
I think that what happened is there was a change. You're asking me a historic.
Yeah, I know, but I think there was
question.
a time.
We didn't have really personal care attendants to speak of to any great degree. Most of it was covered by the Medicare and Medicaid programs with home care, and more people stayed in institution settings until the homemaker health aides and the home care agencies would come and take care of them. But then in the late 90s, they went to a capitated payment system, which means that there was no payment based on the person's overall condition. Say for a fractured hip, you'd have so many weeks or months to get covered. But once that was addressed, you wouldn't get coverage. So the agencies had to cut back on who they took in for home care services, which actually put everybody in conflict with the idea of money follows the person. As we created money follows the person, the federal government took away coverage from the home care agencies. And I think that's how we got to where personal care attendants started to develop more, and then they became unionized.
And then they organized under, you're a member of 1199, I assume?
Yeah. And, Susan, you're pretty much right on the ball. I mean, home care workers were if a home care worker were to get injured on the job, their consumer, the person that they would care for, would have to come right out of pocket to cover their workers' compensation.
Oh, boy.
And they were getting, people who took care of family members were getting paid $7, whereas, other workers were getting paid $10. And This was just about 10 years ago. So, yeah, home care has definitely come a long way, and the union has been, well, really not the third part of the union, but it's the unionized members who really stood up and said enough was enough, have changed home care, what it looks like entirely.
Yeah, I think I know a guy that used to be around, living in Willimantic, but he's not living here anymore. He's more towards Plainfield, but he became a PCA, and I remember it was through him I think I first learned, a little bit to my surprise, because I didn't know that PCAs were in fact organized, which is great. Because it's a very difficult job, and it doesn't pay that well, and it needs to be paid better. We need to attract more people into being PCAs, because there are people who could not have to live in an SNF and could live at home if only they could get that kind of service that you're providing to your brother.
Absolutely, and it's really very, very important from the state's perspective, which is why about 4 years ago, I believe, we increased the amount of money that was supposed to go to PCAs. And when I started out the conversation with you, I was talking about how I was out there in the picket line with PCAs who weren't getting the money that they were supposed to have gotten when the state increased that, and the actual administrator was in the state of Florida. But, that's always a problem when we have administrators for people who are working here in the state, whether it's a nursing home, a home care agency, or a PCA group. It's really something that we have, to give some special thoughts to. So that's why I stood on the picket line, and they came up with the money eventually, within that week, actually, which was really, really good. But you have to be organized with these kinds of issues, because it will make sure that we continue to provide the good care to the people who want to be in their homes, and people who deserve to have good pay for that kind of work.
Definitely.
So how long have you been a PCA, if I might ask?
Yeah, I've been doing it for about 3 years.
Okay, not that long, but I'm sure that in the course of your experience, you've learned an awful lot about caring for somebody who needs that kind of care.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's care for my brother. I learn how to care for myself. I learn being out and meeting other PCAs. And learning the care that they do for others. It's always a learning curve. Preparing to care for others who may need it, yeah, definitely. It's definitely a learning curve all the time.
And having access to the other PCAs and learning from them, that is really something that you probably get from your being a member of the union.
Yeah, 100%. I think otherwise it would just be me and my brother, and the phone calls I make with the GTI.
Right. So that enables you to be better at what you do. And it makes you feel more comfortable, I'm sure. And I said this at the beginning of the show, but I'm going to repeat it. I grew up in a union family myself. In New Britain, my parents worked in the factories. They used to have lots of factories in New Britain there, and that's the only one that people talk about now is Stanley Works, and they're not even there fully. But there used to be 15 or so large factories in New Britain, and in my youth, and anybody who needed a job could get a job there. And fortunately for the workers, including my parents, the factories were mostly unionized, and because if the factory owners had their way, they would pay a lot less than they have to pay, through collective bargaining. So, I think it's great that you have the capacity to bargain collectively with other PCAs.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a woman that I met just recently who joined the union, and currently she is working 60 hours a week, and 40 of it is paid and 20 is unpaid. And really, she's never asked herself why that is. And she's, learning what a collective bargaining unit is. She's excited to, have that change, her situation change. This woman, she does not see her kids because she works so much. So this is how important having the union means to people. It's it's a future. It's a change for their current situation.
Yeah, it's a social structure. It's when you're doing the kind of work that you're doing, it's probably hard for you to get out, and you if you have a way to get out to meet with people that are situated in a similar situation, it's got to be an advantage for you too. So the union is so vitally important. In fact, if I had my druthers, there'd be unions all over the place, like there used to be back 60 years ago when I was young, and because I worked in a supermarket, I was in the retail clerks union, and I worked at the post office. I was in the postal workers union, and then after I got out of the Army, I became a lawyer. So I haven't been in a union in a long time, but I've always been a real supporter of labor unions. I think that I said it during the first part of the show when we were talking to Judy Kyle. This country became great because of public education and labor unions.
That's right. That's right. I think that's absolutely right. When we're looking at the wage levels of people in this country, when the actual organized labor force has gone down somewhat, I think that we would actually not have the problems that we have if more people and more businesses had people who were organized into labor unions. And it would make our country much more, businesses would have more people buying things from them because they'd have more money to buy. And it would be a much better economy with more people in labor unions.
Of course, one of the reasons we're having you and Judy on the show is because of, Labor Day coming up next Monday. It's an important holiday for me. I always feel very happy when, Labor Day comes. It not only means a day off for me, although I pretty much work 24/7, and I'll work part of the day probably, but I will also take time to celebrate, the cause of all working people everywhere.
Awesome, yeah.
Are you celebrating in any particular way on Labor Day? Or?
Labor Day, I will be out and I will be working. In Meriden, we will be out knocking on doors, seeing members.
Oh, that's great.
Very, very good. Very good.
That's great. You'll be knocking on doors to provide information to the public about what you all do and how you need help from the public, because obviously Susan's a member of the legislature, as you know, but she's only one member, and she's not she can't control anything herself. But it really is important for public support. To let the legislative people know that they support the labor unions, and in particular the people like you who are providing home health care.
Awesome.
So you'll be knocking on doors for how long?
I will be in just a couple hours. Well, we're knocking on doors. Exactly what you said. Providing information for just some upcoming things. I mean, you talked about Medicaid and Medicare, and we're trying. We heard things coming down from the federal government, and we want to make sure that everyone is aware of how we could at least provide some safety net for workers. That's what we're doing, and then we're doing a little celebration, a little Labor Day picnic afterwards. So a few hours for work and dedication, and then a few hours for relaxation.
Yeah, I'm glad I asked that question. That was a great answer.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's what we want to hear. We want to, do a little work. That's probably what I'll probably do on Labor Day. I'll do a little work and then I'll celebrate.
Yeah, so we're all very concerned in the legislature about the impact of the loss of $1 trillion for the Medicaid program nationwide, and also probably $500 billion for the Medicare program, which actually has been in the proposal for the bill that passed on July 4th. And so we are very concerned about how much it will cost the state. We've had some estimates that it's in the billions of dollars. And losing $13 billion in our budget is a huge amount of money. So we really need to make sure people understand what's going on. A lot of the changes will occur after 2026, but we need to make sure people are ready.
Yeah, we are very much concerned about what's coming down from Washington, D.C. right now, and I don't have to name who initiated that. You know who it is. And I, we really need to go out and spread the word about how we need to organize, and that's what unions do best, to organize and to let other people know who are not aware of it, how important it is for people to go and vote for the people that care about other people, the needy people and the people who serve needy people. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you said it, we're very scared all the way down to the workers, and even I talked about my brother in the beginning. Is he right now he works, and it's awesome that he's able to do that with all the programs that he's a part of.
Oh, that's great.
And it is awesome. But because of that may be. I mean, he though he would want to work more, he can't because he would lose his funding for his programs, and he wouldn't be able to receive the care that I give him or someone else in the future. And that's something that we're worried about, is whether or not because he can work, he's going to lose the coverage when he's not going to be a priority. And though he might not look like a priority to the state, he's a priority to us. And just could not leave him at home. Somebody, and this is, I'm not just a single case, many families, I mean, mind you, there's 14,000 PCAs in Connecticut. So many people will be sacrificing just to care for their loved ones.
Yeah.
And
if he wasn't eligible for the program, he wouldn't be able to work, and he might end up in an SNF himself. So that's not good for anybody. That's not good, especially for him and for you, but it's not good for society either.
So it costs a lot less to have him working, have you care for him, and have him at home than it would if he had to spend his whole life in a skilled nursing facility.
Yeah, I mean, and all he does is work, and he's happy to do it. He pays taxes, and this isn't the first attack that he's his program. He works at Target, he works at Dick's, he loves working in the mall. But even when he was attacked under programs, when they were attacking diversity and equity inclusion programs, that was another fear of him losing his ability to work. So he's he does nothing and faces constant attacks for his livelihood.
That's very unfortunate he's getting attacked. But we'll be working to make sure people understand that this is saving money, and this is helping the family, and it's helping him participate in the economy.
Maya, I want to thank you very much. The show is winding down now. You've only got about less than a minute left, and I just want to thank you so much for being on the show with us and telling us about your situation. People need to know about it, and we have a lot of listeners, and we're hoping that people, are becoming more and more aware of the situation that is pretty scary coming down from Washington, and we really need to band together and try to help people like in your situation and other people that are helping people people in need. Thank you very much for being on the show.
And happy Labor Day.
Thank you. Happy Labor Day.
Enjoy the picnic.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Enjoy work.
You take care.